Hey everyone, welcome to Coffee with Crainer. I have a very special guest, my former boss on the show, so I'm a little nervous here.
That makes two of us.
Andrew Teliszewsky. Andrew is a principal at GT and Company. Was also the chief of staff for Mayor Drew Dawkins in the city of Windsor. Has had many roles in the provincial government, working in various ministries throughout his career and time in the public sector, and even worked for the Premier of Ontario back in the day. So very interesting conversation about his work and what he's doing in his field today. So I hope you'll enjoy. Andrew, before we jump into it, where in Windsor, Essex is your favorite place for coffee?
Where in Windsor, Essex? Okay, so that's putting me on the spot, and then it's going to, obviously cause controversy for the places that I don't choose. But we live in Riverside, and we are often on the drive to Lakeview Montessori. Shout out to Lakeview Montessori, where both my daughters go to school. And so Toto Cafe is there at Riverside and L'Esperance, and I am awkward parking, though, I think those who know. But if you've been, then you've enjoyed the coffee and the atmosphere, and it's always bustling no matter what time of day you go. And I'm constantly encouraging them to try to relocate to Riverside BIA. So
excellent. No, it's a great spot. I think that was the last time I saw you. Was at Toto,
there we go. I have my set locations where I can be found, sort of thing, and Toto is one of them.
So, okay, good. We'll start with what you're doing now, and then we'll go into your work with the various ministries. But as a principal at GT and Company, what does your role entail, and how did you get involved with that?
So I was home one day with a sick toddler. And I received a phone call out of the blue from a former boss of mine, somebody who I had considered a mentor during my time in politics. And this is one of the founders of the company that I'm presently employed at. And he, wondered whether or not I was interested in a move. And one thing led to another. And within 2 weeks, I, was providing my notice at City Hall at Windsor that I was moving on to this role. So GT and Company is a advisory firm that operates kind of at the intersection between public and private sector, where private companies and organizations are looking to understand what governments are looking to accomplish provincially, federally, municipally, and supporting their relationship with government in order to make sure that everybody moves forward in a way that's most productive and constructive. So it is really fascinating because we tend to get brought in on interesting, projects that are time limited, help us act as kind of surge support as a consultant during a important project, and then when that concludes, hopefully successfully, then you kind of move on to the next gig.
How are you enjoying it?
It is fast-paced. It is exciting. I kind of make the analogy, Lyndon, you mentioned that you and I worked together in Windsor Mayor Drew Dawkins' office, and you're, of course, a councillor here in Amherstburg. At the municipal level, the kinds of files that cross your desk are exceptionally varied. You get economic development, exciting economic development projects like what I got the chance to witness with the Nexstar project, the battery facility, of course, in East Windsor. And then you also have very micro-local community neighborhood concerns about, down to the street level of sidewalk repair on a specific street. What I would say now is that in the role that I'm doing today is that I'm, as a result of the kind of projects that GT operates in, I'm only doing these kind of big projects like the Nexstar piece. So it's very challenging in that everything is a big deal to the entities involved.
And do you travel a lot for work?
I do get the chance to travel, although part of the reason why I was even a candidate for the sort of work that I'm doing today is post-pandemic, the world is a bit more global and everyone is accepting that you can hire expertise that may not be in the cubicle next to you. And so part of the kind of post-pandemic environment where everything is online and via Teams and Zoom, I work out of my home office in East Windsor and then travel as needed.
And now, leading up to this role, you spent a lot of time in the public sector within the province. And looking back at your CV, I believe one of your first roles was working in the Premier's office.
Yeah, so I got involved with the Dalton McGuinty government in the first mandate. So Dalton McGuinty was Premier of Ontario from 2003 to 2013, so a decade there. Feels like yesterday, but for some people it's ancient history, and there may be viewers who need to. You had to wiki this.
Yeah.
So I was, I got involved quite young, and it was an excellent and very formative experience, because when you start to do political staffing and political employment, you realize that the nature of the system, any kind of democratic government, and this exists in every province and every territory and every municipality and the federal government and in other jurisdictions, like if you're lucky enough to get a role in some of these offices, be it an MP's office, an MPP's office, a congressman, a state representative, you're exposed to the mechanics of government better than any PhD or master's thesis could ever teach you about the way in which governments function in modern life. And so that was such an exciting and formative experience for me, and I got the chance to grow in those roles. And with each successive election, there were opportunities for career advancement for me, and so I just got lucky.
And for your going back to the you mentioned like a PhD and doing your thesis, you have an MPA, a master's in public administration, but before that you were in biology. So what I guess going back to your university days, were you originally looking to head into the medical field?
So yes, in fact, my grandmother is still holding out hope that I will end up in medical school.
Yep.
So I did. I enjoyed the sciences, the hard sciences, and so that's where I applied myself for my undergrad. And then when I was doing I got interested in public policy, politics, public administration, and then to kind of pivot that, I looked into the Masters of Public Administration, and it was specialized in innovation science and environmental policy. And at the time, this was the early 2000s, again, I'm dating myself, where issues around, climate change, genetically modified foods, various other issues that had a core basis of understanding in the scientific field, biology, environmental sciences, some chemistry, but then had an application in public administration where governments were attempting to legislate and regulate around these issues. And so I thought naively, or perhaps that having a scientific background, I could take that scientific understanding and kind of merge that with my passion, sidebar hobby of being involved politically, and kind of marry these two things. So.
And how did your interest in politics start?
It's a great question. I remember from a young age being interested in politics and elections. I remember when there were lawn signs that would crop up during an election to be inquiring with my parents and relatives about what the circumstances were, like blue team, red team, orange team, green team, like what's going on
Purple
here?
Team.
Purple team. trying to understand the mechanics of what was going on, and it
Yeah.
fascinated me. And so I remember kind of, being frankly strange, as a teenager, being interested in elections, the history of elections, the outcomes, and what would transpire. And then one thing led to another. And actually, when I was in high school, a gym teacher of mine became a candidate in a provincial general election. And perhaps I thought it would be, for extra credit if somebody volunteered. But that was my initial entry point into politics was helping out on a high school gym teacher's election campaign. And I thought we were going to win. I thought that it was the candidate was going to, that this gym teacher was going to be the MPP. It was a provincial election. And I was crushed when he was crushed in the general election, but still somehow maintained my enthusiasm and kept going.
Yeah. Okay. And now, what was your time like working within the government? Like, it's very different now being on the consulting side. How would you say you're working with public and private companies at GT and Company, but how would you say the work differs in any way? Right? Is there a lot more structure in the public sector working, as a staffer versus what you're doing now? Like, how would you say they differ?
They're almost like two sides of a particular coin. I was thinking about this a moment ago, where in government, you're so busy moving forward on a legislative agenda. You have competing priorities. You have media interest in what's going on. You have external events that are going to happen and require rapid response. And all the while, somebody in the background is moving forward on an important but maybe not top tier legislative or regulatory amendment. And you need to consult with stakeholders, industry representatives who are experts in that field. Now in the advisory space, we kind of try to connect the dots to help companies who are also busy. They're operating in a particular field. They are navigating the interesting and unique macroeconomic times that we find ourselves in today. And they may not quite understand what government is doing and how they should be interfacing with them. So it's in part a bit of a matchmaking service. In part, it's a bit translating service for both sides, helping government understand what the needs of particular economic sectors are, and frankly, sometimes helping private firms understand when and how they should be interfacing with government in order to help both sides achieve an important national objective.
So you left, but you didn't. You're on the other side.
Well,
in a way.
In a way, and I get to help move. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. I consider my career and time to be very fortuitous in that the projects that I get to touch and the people that I get to work with, I'm learning every day. I am helping some projects move forward that I hope will, be a great addition to a local or regional economic space, and that makes sense in the public policy environment that we find ourselves. So, I mean, I feel a bit like, I don't know, I'm deployed according to need, and for a short period of time in some instances. So it could be like in your average everyday life, maybe 3, 4, 5 times in your lifetime, you might seek out a real estate agent. That's because they have a particular expertise in how to effect that transaction. I'm maybe going to buy in my entire lifetime 3, 4 houses. I don't know. My wife will tell me when it's time to move. But I'm not going to go and become a real estate agent in order to do that transaction, I will go and outsource that expertise. And so
That's
similar to what we kind of do.
You've worked with Ministry of Infrastructure, Transportation, Energy. I know the answer to this question, but which ministry did you enjoy working with the most?
Oh, God, it's like asking you to pick your favorite child. No, so I spent my real formative time, I spent 5 years as Chief of Staff at the Ministry of Energy across 2 different ministers. And for folks who might understand politics, that's kind of rare because you tend to stay with your cabinet minister. I stayed with the portfolio, and I was asked to stay when a new minister was brought in to kind of just help with the transition. And then we got along like a house on fire, so I stayed for a little bit longer. And in that time, 5 years is a long time in any role, especially in politics. In that time, I really got to know the sector and understand a bit the history of electricity and energy public administration in Ontario and in Canada. And so that's primarily the ecosystem that I operate in now is energy and electricity projects.
And now it's one of the largest portfolios, I would say, in the provincial government, at least.
There's it touches everything, we turned on some lights here to be able to record this podcast. You need it every single day with how connected we are. But we're also moving to a more electrified economy where, electric vehicles, they're going to be a source of increasing demand on the grid. The way in which our economy is developing leads to greater need for electricity generation. There's a lot of talk of North America and Canada, the next wave of investment coming from data centers and everything that comes surrounding that. And so electricity generation, transmission, and distribution is no longer a sleeper issue. It's actually front and center for economic development, and it's a fun space to be in right now.
You should get a T-shirt. I love energy.
Or I am energetic.
Yeah, or
maybe.
That.
Yeah,
or that.
There we go.
Yes.
That's a T-shirt for you, though.
Okay. Final question for you, Andrew, is if somebody's looking to become a staffer in any ministry, any level of government, what would be your advice? Should they go out and receive an MPA? Would you recommend that? Can they go right out of university or college? What would be the first step to enter that role?
So actually, what I would pivot that to is some kind of involvement in campaigns and elections.
Okay.
So campaigns and elections matter. It's something that we take for granted. It is super, super important. Threats to democracy exist globally. You read, see, hear a lot about online trolls and democratic legitimacy being questioned in jurisdictions across the world, in Western economies. And so I just think, and it's there's a lot of cynicism around, and you must have encountered this, right? Being a young person involved in public life and in electoral politics, there's so much cynicism around politics. And there may be cause for that. You're going to need another podcast to debate those issues. But the more that good people get involved and participate, the better the outcomes, and the more diverse the outcomes will be. And so what I would say is I would just encourage anyone, all of your millions of followers, to participate in some form of electoral politics, no matter what your affiliation, no matter what your ideological view, whether it's municipal, provincial, federal, some jurisdictions have a regional government. If you like what you see, or if you like a particular candidate, they may not win. But it is so hard to come by volunteers and activists today. Somebody once told me, and this number has probably gone down, but that less than 2% of the Canadian population will join a political party of any stripe, blue team, red team, orange team, purple team, green team. And so that's such a small fraction of the population that's going to participate in the democratic process. I mean, we're all going to go and vote and, become aware about the issues at election time. But a way to get involved is to just roll up your sleeves and participate as a volunteer. And who knows, like, that's what I did. And one thing led to another.
Maybe it's your next gym teacher, right?
It could be your next gym teacher or your next colleague at City Hall who shows up one day and says, "Hey, I'm running for Amherstburg Town Council."
No, this was great, Andrew. I think you have a very fascinating career. It's something that you've really dedicated your life to, right? And have stuck with, and very fascinating portfolios and industries that you've been a part of, and projects down in Windsor, Essex that you've been able to.
And you get to meet great people. Yeah. That's how we met.
Yeah.
Right? And so there are stories like that where you've got a list of people that you've met as a result of political involvement. I have the same. You may not see them every day, but you know that you can reach out to them and pick up that conversation the same way, as you did, even if it's been a 6-month break. Yeah. And so that's also part of it, is about networking and just becoming part of your community.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time, Andrew. And thank you to those that have tuned in. If you want to rewatch the episode or you missed it, visit coffeewithcrainer.com. Andrew Teliszewsky is on LinkedIn, so please spam his direct messages with as many questions as you'd like. I'm sure he would love to get your feedback.
Thanks you, Lyndon.
Thanks so much.